Okay, ladies and gentlemen, ndakulandiraniso mu video iyi yomwe tikambirane zokhuza ndi CSS, right? So in our last video we talked of HTML, muno tikamba za CSS, right? So this is part 2. Part 1 was HTML, part 2 is CSS, and part 3 will be building a simple site, right? Using the knowledge of medical that we into for about HTML and CSS. There's a particular also in Ubanga website yabubu. Okay, so let's get started. As we said earlier on with the CSS, amatithandizira kupanga beautify our HTML, right? Kupanga beautify my website atu. Okay, so as we said kumambira uja tinkanena kuti HTML alinga di structure. Okay, so alinga di structure. Let's say muntu kumanga nyumba ukuyika makoma, right? Makoma chani malata, that is just HTML. You're just getting the structure. Deso pano ukabwerano nyumba muja kumazeka plaster, kumaipenta kuyika kala kuambotani kuipanga beautify. So it's the same concept ya nyumba mene zimaendera ndi HTML and CSS, right? HTML ungomanga nyumba ija, CSS ungomanga beautify, right? So tikamalemba a CSS command, okay? Tikamalemba a CSS command timakandi structure, right? So I have some images here for simple, right? Okay, yeah. So tikamalemba CSS timakandi structure, right? Structure yathu imakhala chonchi. Timakhala ndi selector ukuti makandi chani declaration, right? Selector ndi declaration. Mu selector mwathu timatanso panga nesti metapangiramu. Koma mu declaration mwathu muja to focus on our declaration. Mu declaration mwathu timakhala ndi property ndi value, right? Property ili ngati kuti ukufuna utani, right? Values ili ngati kuti ukufuna uchite modani, right? For example, let's say ukufuna usinthe kala, okay? Ufuna kala ikhale yotani, kala ufuna ikhale yellow, right? So property and value, right? So this is just basic structure ya CSS, right? So selector ya makhala otani, right? Selector timakhala kuti cause mukati if you understand earlier on timanena kuti timakhala ndi ma tags, and P most of you are aware kuti uyu ndi tag, which ili tag ya paragraph, right? Ndeti kalemba P chonchi zozi uthandaza pazi uthandaza kuti ma paragraph onse amene ali mu HTML file imeneyi ndikufuna font family yake ikhale chani imeneyi, okay? Zozi uthandaza ndi zimenezo. Ngati apa amanena kuti afuna ma heading ma H1 heading, ma H2 heading ndi ma H3 heading akhale ndi ma properties awo, okay? So that is what was being said. So there are different ways how you can actually apply CSS ku HTML kwako. Ukhoza kupanga apply inline kapena ukhoza kupanga external file ya CSS yekayeka. So tuthandaza nzokuti for example in the HTML code ngati iyi, okay? Ukhoza mabwera mkati momu ndikumayika CSS yako, right? Timaiza keyword style, right? Ndikumalemba CSS yako, let's say color ikhale ka red, kala ikhale ka blue, kumasinda CSS yako momu style iyi timachita kuti inline style chifukwa choti ili mkati mwa tag yathu, right? This is inline CSS. Komano inline CSS swabwino chifukwa chokuti website ikakula zinthu zimatani zimambovuta. Komanso let's say kuti website yako mukufuna kuti ma H2 onse kapena ma H1 onse amene ali mu website mwako akhale ndi kala ya red, ndelese muli ma HTML ma H1 ali mo 6. If you're using inline CSS, it means kuti paliponse upite ukasinthe kala pamene pali H1, pomwe ukakhala kuti kuiza external CSS ngati ndinapangira apa umatongopanga selector chonchi ngonena kuti ma H1 onse apangidwa apply chani that particular property, right? So ma selector alipo osiyana, right? Ma selector alipo osiyana, ma selector, okay? So for example yomwe timakambirana apayi, that was a type selector, right? Because that was a type. Okay, we also have a universal selector yomwe imakhala ka stack. Universal selector imakhala kuti yupanga apply to everything else on the document. Type selector imaiza ma tags acha H1 H2 P doesn't zake. Class selector imaiza class name, so we can create class names to represent our HTML. Tindi ID selector imakhala ID must be unique. So the difference between a class selector and an ID selector ndi kuti ID selector imapanga belong to one particular element, pomwe class selector yomweyo ukozoyika ku element ina, right? Tini ma selector osiyanasiyana ngati descender selector umatapanga select zinthu ziwiri pakamodzi, right? Koma nofunikira kwambiri descendant selector id selector, class selector, type and universal selector zomwe tipange demonstrate in this video. So let's get ourselves started, right? So tanena kuti to use external file, okay, for our CSS, right? We call it an external CSS. Chifukwa choti tipanga create file ina yapadera. Okay, so let's create file ina yapadera. Tipanga right click umu, tipanga create new file. Tichwa kuti style.css, enter. Tipanga create file yapadera hii ili blank, okay? Komano file yapadera hii tiwine ti link ndi HTML wathu here. Tipange link kuti style uyu ndi wa HTML wathu mu website yathu. So to link that tipita mu head, tipanga type in link, right? Muika reference yomwe kale style sheet, href yomwe makhala location ya file, tinena kuti mu current location koma zina ya file ndi style.css chonchi. You press enter. Now we have linked. Our CSS is linked with our HTML. Now we can directly reference our elements using those selectors in our style.css file, and the changes will be reflected, right? So there's also one more thing that I wanted to add is go to your extensions, right, and search for Lifesaver, this guy. Just install it. Once you install it, okay, so Lifesaver thandiza kuti tikamapanga apply ma changes athu izipangira tu yokha auto refresh ku page uja. Let me demonstrate. I'll click on go live. Right, so this is it. Yes, go blog. So this is the website, right? Website is endimene. So I'll dig a side by side. Okay. Right. So tikamapanga add my changes as vangira auto reflect. For example, because of advertisers is you. We have z z. Then we can save. Yapangira to refresh you. That means Lifesaver extension ya Visual Studio Code, Visual Code, VS Code, right? So in our first video we recommended using VS Code. So if you're also using VS Code, move it like extension and you do the same. Okay, so tentiambebo nde chiyambirira. Okay, so I have this right here. I have this right here. This is our outline. Tikamba zama colors, tikamba zama text, tikamba zama boxes, and tikamba zama layouts, right? So let's start with the colors, right? So my colors timatwapanga represent munjira yosiyana using either a name, a hex, or an RGB value, right? So let's go style.css. Okay, so if you remember also in our last video tinapanga install pesticide, right? So now that we have linked our index, our HTML and CSS, pesticide uchanayamba kugwira ntchito. Kapanga click pa pesticide yonchi mukhoza kuona chilichonse chikuoneka mabondale zake, right? This also makes me add another point yokuti CSS tikamapanga format zinthu zathu ma elements athu. CSS amapanga treat chilichonse element ina yonse ngati ndi box, right? Amapanga treat element ina yonse ngati ndi box, right? So for example h1 uyu mukuzopanga appreciate kuti h1 ndi uyu amuyika mu box mwake chifukwa choti CSS uja akumona h1 munjira imene, right? Let's say for example kupanga add background ku h1 tikatopanga add background kujani mu box imene, right? Yeah, so this is pesticide, right? Kwa amene simukuziwa mmene mungatode pesticide, mupanga click settings, mupanga click more tools, mukapita kuma extensions and you go ku extension store, kenako mukango search pesticide. Mukapanga search pesticide, bas you're done. That's the spelling. Anyways, so let's start by playing around with the colors. So we'll start by playing around with the color for the h1, right? So h1, I can give him a class selector. Let's say class, it should be heading, right? I can also give it an ID. Okay, so element imodzi kozepasa class iyo mwe kuipasa id. Id will uniquely identify element iyo. Class is not unique. Class timata kuipasa ku zinthu zomwe zili zofanana. Let's say h1 ukawose tipase kuti heading. We can do that with a class, comma not with an id, because an id must be unique. So I can add id hapa lichula kuti main heading, right? Lichula kuti main heading, right? So how do you target these things who start with CSS, right? What is the syntax? So let's learn the syntax of how you can use a heading, which is a class or an ID, to change its color by name. So tikapita ku start with CSS, we can do something like dot heading. So ukaika doti umatanthauza kuti ukuuza class selector. So chilichonse chili ku index.html chomwe chili ndi class selector dot heading, then tichipase color ya red, which we save. As you can see, the color has changed. Okay, we can also use the id. Tikamaliza id timamba ndi hash, tinachita kuti main main heading, right? Then tipase color yoti blue. Okay, yabwera blue. One more thing also that I must say ndi yokuti mukapanga apply CSS ku element yofanana ngamene wapangira apa yomwe ndi h1 kayo CSS amatenga command yomwe mwalemba kumapeto. Okay, for example apa element ndi imodzi komano color yasankha yomalizirayi. That's how CSS works. Okay, it moves from up going down. So basically chomwe chipangidwe display ndi chamusi. But anyways, this is how you can change the color of a heading. So nakamba also you can also change the color of a heading using RGB value, right? RGB value. So that's red, green. So there's two color. RGB is red, green, and blue. Okay. So it's just a combination of these three colors. There's colors to give us one particular color, right? It makes us come up with some unique colors that we want. So let's add some red, 100 of red. Let's put 125 of green, and let's say 230 of blue, right? If you save, you can see we have made this custom color. So this is how you can use the RGB color value. It's just you are going to represent red, or green, or blue. That's what's going on. Another way you can specify the color is using the hex values. Okay, so the hex values is just a sequence of 6 characters. Okay, so 2 characters represents the same thing as the RGB, right? So the first 2 red, the middle 2 green, and the last 2 blue. So it goes something like this. You can give it, let's say, www8834. Is this an actual color? I think it's not an actual color. Hash. Okay, so yeah, we save. There we go. We have changed the color to some grayish. I don't know. Is it brown? Is it green? Looks like green. But anyways, this is how the hex color code works, right? So you can also change the opacity. You can also change the opacity or the background color. So let's start with the background color, as we said. Let's give a background color. Background color of RGB. Let's say 33, 29. This should be 90. So it's more of pinkish. All right, so we can have that color. We can also add CSS like opacity. We can also add opacity. Opacity is like opacity is like kuti tuchipanga set kuti chikhale choonekera motani, chikhale transparent motani, right? Kai kuonekera kwake. Let me just demonstrate. Let's put 0.5 and click enter. Majoone. So element usage, you can be a transparent ways. That's opacity. I will not use it here. I don't like that much of the opacity. Command yeah, just know that there's a property called opacity. So let's jump straight to text. So let's play around with text, font family, font size, weight, and font style. So let's start with font family. So font family is ideal with the document also is a kind of font family of Fanan, right? So we can do that using that universal selector Kastaraj. And we can give it a universal format, right? Like font family can be this, right? So as you can see, everything else is following the arrow font family, right? Fayota is the universal selector once and the font family of Fanan. So that's how the universal selector work. So let's play around with the heading. Okay, so I can say I can give it a color. So color will give the color of the text as we noticed earlier on. I'll give it something like white. You see now it's white. Yeah, it's white. I can also give it a font size. It's something like font size. I'll give it, let's say 12 pixels. My pixels in mine it's ngarongaja aku Microsoft Word, right? Means good 12 pixels like good color bunch. So I can give it 12 pixels or my color, so I'll give it 30 pixels. That looks like the same. I'll give it 40 pixels. There we go. Right, 40 pixels. I can also change like the font weight. Font weight in the body modane. Alright, so these are the values that you can give it from 100 to 900. As you can see, it's now more bold. Okay, I can also give it a font style. So I can make my text to either be italic, normal. Let me put it to be italic. Click enter. Now the text is italic. Right, so there we go. These are the text formats that you can play around with, right? The other thing that we'll talk about is boxes, right? Controlling boxes. As we have said that everything else is treated as a box. As you can see, everything else is treated as a box. So how can you manipulate these boxes, right? How can you manipulate these boxes? So I'll play around with these two paragraphs. Let's manipulate those boxes. I'll turn off paste site, right? But then we can use paste site to actually appreciate the changes. Let me turn on paste site, right? So I'll play around with these paragraphs. So I'll go to index.html. So the first paragraph, which is this one, I press Control. I press Alt, click here, space. I'll give it a class name of which this is about us. So I'll call it about us paragraph, right? I'll give each one color first. I'll change the word later on. Paragraph. So the first one will be the first paragraph. The second one will be the second paragraph. There we go. Okay, so let's play around with the about paragraph, right? So we go to style, full stop, about us paragraph. Let's play around with the boxes, right? So I'll turn on the grids so that we can see, right? So that we can see. And I know some people might have problems with setting up the grid, right? Setting up the grid. So I'll show you another way how you can come about this. We can use the border property, right? So we can display this border using the border property. So just to dig around some theory a little bit, right? So kaline kamene tukuona kali kunjaka, this is what we call the border, right? Line ya kunjai, the border. Okay, let me do this. Let me do border. Right, border yo ikhale ya size 2 pixels, ikhale ya solid, color yake ikhale yani blue. Chonchi one border ndi space ya kunjai, right? Space yomwe ili mkatimu, right? Space yomwe ili mkati mwa border timachoti padding, right? For example, I can say something like padding 2m, right? So m is another unit that is used to CSS for sizing, right? So you can check out the differences between pixels, ems. We also have another one which is rem, rem. Also check out about that. So these are just different unit sizes, right? The same way NAMA use kilometers per hour. Let's say speedometer again. NAMA use kilometers per hour, and they use the other one. Is that mph, something like that? All right. So this is padding. So when we talk of this is the space inside the border, right? Command the space outside the border here is, we call it a margin, right? So we can also add a margin of 2m. Let's say something like margin 2m. Okay, as you can see, we have added margin around the containers, right? So that is the margin, a margin of 2m, right? The other thing that you can also work around with is you can change the height and width, right? You can change the size of the boxes, right? We can say with all these boxes should have a width of, let's say, 50% of the page, right? So you say 50% of its parent container. So parent container don't have borders. They don't have carry 50% of the parent container. All right, let me open page side. All right, as you can see, so this is the 50% ya borders. Space yojoga hapa kukafika hapa half yake, half ya yojoga hapa kukafika hapa, the size ya margin ya makadi atu zomwe tapangabe kunzimezo, right? 50%. So my sizes walipo so many tsosiana. You can use my pixels aja, or you can use aims. Komano I like 50%. I like my percent. For my percentages chomwe amapanga njokuti page jam kama ichepesa ma percentage aja amakhala be menalili. Koma let's say mwena kuti size yake khala 12 pixels. Page kama sika palibe zoti page kusika kapena ikuchepa, right? Page kama sinta size kabe kuti page kusinta size kapena ayi amamba usinta, right? Apeza kuti 30 pixels aka 30 pixels. Pomwe ukayika ma percentage 50% yapeza kuti nice hotani momona akumapanga nawo expand akumasintha nawo, right? So I can say kuti pixels are more dynamic, pomwe ma percentage, pixels are more fixed, pomwe ma percentages are dynamic. For your size yake imasintha. So this is how you can change the size. That's the margin, padding, and that's the border, right? So to go to the next thing, we'll talk about positioning, right? We have got a position as relative, absolute, fixed, and flexbox. So when you say the position is relative, imaka the element yo position yake ikhale mofanana ndi mene yapangidwa place ku HTML. Kapena kuti this is the default size, default positioning. For example, mene malemba muja header na zabwe mwambiliro, kena kwa borders menu, kena kwa borders uyu, kena kwa mapi awa, kena kwa zabwe na menu awa, zinthu zimayenda mu order. Alright, so let's play around with positioning ni ma menus awo. Then nipite ku index.html. Ma menus are what? Menu 1, right? Menu 1, menu 2. Right, so yomwe ndipange ma menus wa ndaike mu div. Ndipange ke div imene yomwe mukhale ma menu. Alright, div yamba imeneyo. Div yachiwiri. Then my div, as I said, these are universal containers. And containers are universal. Okay, atakhala pasi ndikuona kuti sangapange create container ya case scenarios kapena ma tags za case scenarios anazangopanga yani ma div. Okay, chifukwa each and every element in the tag yake. For example, panga tukamba zama sections, it has a meaning. The likes of header, it has a meaning. The likes of nav, it has a meaning for navigation, right? Komaro mapeza kabisa zintu zake zokuti ndisa custom kwa muntu iweyo, right? So anatipasa div, for example ngati apa tifati pange create makadi amamenyu, anatipasa div kuti kuzorani kuzamugwisa ntchito. So chomwe tipange timpase class name, right? Timpase class name, timpase class yokuti menu card, right? So I'll call this a menu card like that, right? So okay, so let me make sure that my menu card is in the, okay, wait, let me also do something like an ID, right? An ID menu card 1, it's gonna be menu card 2, it's gonna be menu card 3. All right, so okay, let me get a hold of my menu card. I'll go start with CSS, and let me give it some border 2px solid. Let's say what will look good. Let me give it another blue. Should be all blue everywhere. Okay, on it. So my div atu haja na menu wa abanga enclose ma menu atu abakalabwa nyola menu limudulusa saka nkali ma div menu ya kale kunjo menu limile kunjo chonchi. Yeah, bora menu. So as you can see now, right, awandikana kwambiri, so let's give them a padding. Let's give them a margin, right? Makada akaini margin. Okay, so margin amatenga the likes of margin the padding amatenga ma values 4. Maina ika papa kuti padding 2m na nthandazo kuti mbali ina yonse ya container ikali 2m, kumusi 2m, ku left 2m, ku right 2m, mwamba 2m. Komano if you want to specify the sides, you can also manually put in the sizes. For example, avandi kozonera kuti ndema size wa first value matanoza mwamba. Okay, so padding ya mwamba ikali yani, padding ya mwamba ikali 1m. Okay, yaku right ikali yani, yaku right ikali 0. Okay, yapansi ikali yani, ikali so 1m. Yaku left ikali yani, ikali 0. Let me save chonchi. So now sinta padding ya mwamba ndi musi ma container inalios, right? Container yose na sinta mwamba ndi musi. So that's how you can do it. Padding is on the mods, right? Komano padding yankati ndipase value mods, then ndipase 1m chonchi. Yeah, zipo mankadi. All right, so as you can see now, here is where we at. So we are trying to talk about our position, right? So let's make card number 3, let's say position relative, and let's appreciate, right? Card number 3, so we say position relative, right? That card number 3 position relative, there's nothing that will change, right? Because it's already the default positioning, right? Kadi yamba ibwabo yamba yajuibwa pachiwiri yachitatu pachitatu, right? So we have another property which is absolute. When you say position is absolute, timanena kuti that particular div or that particular container should exist independent of its other children, right? So you are joga musamaendea now zaena. You want to save. So card number 3, position absolute, right? So yeah, we have set the menu card 3 to absolute. All right. Oh yeah, but then we are using a class selector. But then remember this was an ID, so we should use an ID selector. And let's click save. Right? So when we click save, we see that the card is now outside its normal flow, as you can see, right? So absolute positioning removes the card from its normal flow. Let me remove the paste sign. It removes the card from the normal flow, right? So this is what absolute positioning does, right? So the other position is a fixed position, right? So we can give, let's say, our heading, right? Let's give it a position of fixed. Alright, so as you can see, if we give our heading a position of fixed, it will be fixed to the top, as you can see. So it is now being fixed to the top. Alright, we can make this let's see, let's put it on the right screen. Okay, fine, let's not do so much about it. It will be, as you can see, the position is fixed. So we'll learn more about these things when we're actually creating site yanthundu. Komano panopa mungozoti position ukayika fixed chinthu chimapanga stick pamene chilipo sichimasunda ngati mene chapangira yani header ili fixed mano ndi chose file likundisunzira page. Alright, save. Right, so that's position fixed. So the last thing chomwe timafuna tikambirane zokhudzana ndi ma flexbox. Now ma flexbox ndiye ndofunika kwambiri chifukwa ndi amene amathandiza kupanga layout, right? Ma flexbox amathandiza kupanga layout koma si njira ya ma flexbox yokha, pali njira ina ya manyo yomwe atankeza kalekayo umachita chipanga position chinthu manually. Majo panga set kuti ku left kukhale size yambiri yonchi, ku right size yambiri yonchi. Pali njira ina using ma grids. Ma grids amakangati kuti ngati ma rows and columns, right? So you can create layout using ma rows and columns. Komano yomwe tigwise ntchito pano ndi flexbox, right? So flexbox kulongosola kwake ndikofunika kuti we should have an example, okay? So for example mene tilili ndi menu by, right? Mene tili ndi menu then tipange tigwire mene ikhale chani in a flexbox format. So ndicho sa heading. Let me create another div. Let me create another div. Okay, so let me put it in there. Heading which we want bubble. Wait. Now you know H2 main save. Right, so nothing has changed. Nangonyezera div, right? Nangonyezera div na. Even ndicho class name yake ikhale yani ikhale menu wrapper, right? So like something that's wrapping up all the menu cards, right? Menu wrapper. Then kamapanga display the layout yomwe display flex kapena flexbox ndi njira imodzi yomwe imathandiza kupanga layout. For example makadata let's say tifuna kale vertically or horizontally, or they should align in a vertical in a horizontal row, right? So we'll do something like that wrapper that we created the class name menu wrapper. Okay, we'll give it something like display flex. As you can see, so automatically when you say display flex has some properties like flex direction. Imakadi papa flex direction yake ndi row, right? Which means with the parent will be a row, the children will be in my columns. As you can see, the parent yomwe chili menu jija chakha row, me bring peside parent yemwe ali div ja yomwe nacho wrapper uja uyu akha row, my children akha ma columns, right? So to space them apart, you can add a command called justify content space between space. So we have different options, right? Space around means with this space evenly, right? Have space evenly and space between. Let's start with space between. If you click save, you see there will be space between the cards, as you can see. Then kapanga space even, right? Ikawudi mbali zonse ku left and ku right, the space ya even, right? Kapanga space around, more na kuti no space japangidwa fill around these containers, right? So space na lumbalija yapanga fill around the container, that space around. For now we use space between like this, right? So to spice things up, we can also say kuti ma cards aja kuti my menu cards say currently width ya so this one the parent in the 100%, right? So ana ditapasa width, let's say 30 that is kind of space ya 10%. Right, so we can say ana kind width ya 30%. The mwana ina isa kala 30% width. Right, but then it's still filling up for your nima padding ngati mwe nde masama jasanga gwire joncho. So let's just give it alisa kind ma 20%. Right, I don't like the look, so let's give it 25. Okay, yeah, so as you can see, each and every chart now has a width of 27%. Alright, so yeah, this is how you create layouts. So ma layout awa ndo ofunika kwambiri chifukwa pa yes tungopanga makadzi okhawe komano layout imekhoza kugwiritsa ntchito opanga create the entire page. Alright, imagine uyakhale header, right, pakale ma section yake imwe pali makola awiri pena pali makola atatu. So using this idea ya Flexbox is very helpful, right? It's very helpful. So other things that you can do with Flexbox, you can add other elements like flex wrap, let me what's going on, RL, and add something else like flex wrap, right? You can put it to wrap. So what will happen is page ikachapa kwambiri ma elements awa ok azisintha chani direction yawo ngati chonchi. Page ikamachepa chonchi space ikatha muona kuti mwaona asintha chani makhalidwe awo ina ichabwera pansi. So this is flex wrap. Ikamachepa mpaka peze kosewa ni ma columns pende flex wrap. So ili mathandizira kuti tikamapanga handle mobile view website yathu ikhale kutani ikugwirabe bwinobwino. Okay, so that's flex wrap. You can also flex direction. You can also do flex direction. Flex direction, let's say column, right? That ikhala yabwera pa mambiri paja. Komando sizikuzaza ifa yoti tinasintha width ya uli 27 of this parent container, right? Command as you can see, command 10 tibwezese ikhale low ya moja flex low. Okay, you can also align items. Align items umakhala kupanga align my items, right? Kuti akhale pa center, akhale kumapeto, akhale kumambiriro. Okay, so options amakhala, right? Ngalapata panga align end, it means kuti ma containers athu acha ku end ndetu ndi kumusu ose abwere kumusi. Kapena nthawi zoti aziyambira kumusi mapita mwamba, tikozopanga flex start that aziyambira mwamba mapita musi, something like this. Okay, flex start wakapati kozeka align item center. Okay, abwera pa center. Yeah, so briefly this is about CSS in a nutshell. CSS mataungisa ntchito munjira imene, right? So now this is a head start, so I would advise you to get yourself familiar with Flexboxes, right? Ma commands ena awaso get yourself familiar, right? So yeah, this is an introduction to CSS. Video hii itera pamenepo. Zinthu zina zomwe sininakambemo zinthu ngati ma layouts ena makamaka ngati grid ndofunikira. Okay, grid ndofunikira pa video musinakambe mu video itapanga focus kwambiri pa flex, right? Yeah, so yeah, video iyi mapeto ake ndi amenewo. So video yomwe yasala ndi part 3. Part 3 ndi zapanga build website yonse ya nthunthu. Mwina mwake kwa anthu ena zinthu zako zomaziona komano akanika kuzilumikiza bwinobwino kuti kodi okay, yes kusintha kala ndi kumeko, yes layout ndi imene, komano tingayipange bwanji build website because ma website apano saoneka chonchi tonse tikuziwa. So in the next video, which is part 3, tipanga create na website ya nthunthu kugwiritsa ntchito nzeru kapena knowledge yomwe takambirana pamenepo using HTML and CSS. Knowledge imene tipanga build nayo website, right, in part 3. So don't forget to leave comments, right? Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button because that will keep me motivated to actually produce more videos. So panopa tipanga za video part 3 tikupanga for website. After imeneyo tikuyena tiyambe kupanga React, right? Tipange React if time allows us, or ngati msyllabus mwathu tili ndi Nest as backend tipangaso munomu. And I know anthu ena mauwa akozomamveka mwachilendo kwambiri. Do not be alarmed. Tikamamba za front end imakhala ngati kuti interface yomwe tikuyona papayi, this is the front end. Tikamapanga za back end ndi zinthu zomwe zikuchitika kuseri kwa website iyi. Let's say ngati tili database ndoti code yomwe izitenga data pa website yathu ukayipitisa ku database ili ngati back end. Komando zimenezo don't stress about it, we'll talk about later on. So I'm debating on whether we'll be doing React or Nest.js. Okay. Alright, so yeah, let's end the video right here.